Sorry to interrupt your time today.
Court is now back in session. Does the prosecution have any closing statements they'd like to make?
Yes, Your Honor. To start off, I'd like to thank those who are here today, dedicating their time to this case. Now, I stand here knowing I have given my all to providing justice for all those who were affected by the Crusades, in which were encouraged and initiated by Pope Urban II. Ignoring all witnesses and facts and arguments brought up during the trial, I ask you to think about how would you feel personally if you were the people being attacked. Now, considering this, how would you feel knowing the man who ordered and initiated the slaughterings of you and those you cared about was freely roaming wherever he pleased? How would you feel knowing that he was still out there, perfectly capable of ordering another crusade? These feelings are what every victim of the crusade is going through every day. There was never a single argument that Pope Urban II did not initiate and call for the crusade. In his speech, if his speech was never given, none of the many innocent lives would have been taken. It is clear the blood is on the Pope's hands. Going back to the Jewish resident who had to see the slaughtering of his friends and could do nothing about it. And Saladin, who had to go through the battle with the Crusaders and was threatened and had to make a deal to save his men, while the Crusaders wouldn't even consider making a deal to save theirs. And Ibn, an expert historian who oversaw the whole cruel experience of the Crusade and saw no one fighting for their religion, just slaughtering to slaughter. A man that can cause so many awful events should not be free. A man who initiated the Crusade is guilty beyond measure. Those victims of the Crusade that Pope Urban II called for will never be able to get back all they lost, but they can be provided with one thing, and that's justice, a light of hope in the darkness they have been left in. There is no humanity in a man who provoked and allowed such events to occur. If he did it once, there is no promise that he won't do it again. Pope Urban II is guilty, and no one is safe, nor will they be safe until he is gone, locked away. Our religion would never require murder. His call to do so is unjustified and was unnecessary. The job of the court is to provide justice. So do exactly that and provide justice for the thousands of those who need it. Thank you, Your Honor.
Does the defense have any closing statements they'd like to make?
We do, Your Honor. In closing, I'd like to acknowledge a few key points and moments in this trial. First, we must remember that it is the Pope who is on trial in this particular case, not King Richard the Lionheart, not Peter the Hermit, not the individual crusaders. The Pope is the one accused of manslaughter, armed robbery, conspiracy to murder, and accessory to murder. The prosecution's witnesses have already described that they themselves never firsthand saw the Pope commit any crimes. Therefore, there is still no evidence viable in convicting the Pope. If that wasn't enough for you, the charges of manslaughter and conspiracy to murder are contradictory of themselves. Manslaughter, often associated with car accidents which result in a fatality, is done entirely on accident, while the charge of conspiracy to murder alludes to the fact that the murder was premeditated and purposeful. Due to the nature of the charges and precedents in cases set before this, it is impossible to be found guilty of both. The Pope has also been charged with accessory to murder. Accessory to murder often means the supplying of weapons to a criminal. Back in the car analogy, Ford has never been charged with accessory to murder for supplying people with cars. Armed robbery consists of theft brandishing a weapon. The Pope himself has said that he doesn't even know how to use any weapons at the time. And once again, nobody saw the Pope himself commit these crimes. Do not misconstrue the meaning of the Pope's words. In his speech at Clermont, he wished to achieve unification of the quarreling European knights. He wished to defend the attacked Byzantine Empire, and he wished to peacefully reclaim the Holy Lands of Jerusalem. He specifically said to grant a speedy pardon to all who the Crusaders should encounter. Nowhere does he suggest rape, robbery, or murder. If our own Mr. Brad Anderson asked this class to walk down to Mr. Carhart's class, and on the way we disheveled the library, interrupted Mrs. Penninga, and had a food fight in the cafeteria, is Mr. Brad Anderson to be found guilty of our crimes? The prosecution says that those who attacked were Christian in faith. The Pope and his peaceful crusaders are followers of the Roman Catholic religion. The prosecution witnesses also disagree in their responses to questions about what the Crusades were about. Some say it was religiously motivated. Others say that it was just a mere random slaughter. In conclusion, the prosecution witnesses offered many good sob stories, but no real evidence that could be used against the Pope. In other cases, against individual crusaders themselves, maybe. Against the Pope, never. The charges themselves are absurd and have no basis on facts. Often they are contradictory and can be cast away by simple analogies. It was entirely against the Pope's wishes what happened in the Crusades, and if he was alive during the eventual 2nd through 14th Crusades, it can easily be assumed that they would be called off immediately, as they quickly strayed away from his original purposes. Simply put, there is no evidence supporting the guilty verdict, and Pope Urban II should swiftly be named an innocent man.
This court will now take a short recess to allow the jury to deliberate the decision.